Welcome to the AI. Ready the podcast for Lucy and Andrew.
Welcome to the AI Readiness podcast. I'm Andrew and this is Lucy.
Hello.
The purpose of the podcast is to demystify, debunk, get your foot on the ladder and give you everything you need to know as a leader in an organization about how to build generative AI capability from the bottom up or the top down or a bit of a blend of both.
So we're going to be diving into culture and capability and have a think about how your organisation will evolve over the next 12 to 18 months. We're going to explore maintaining the joy of work and staying aligned with purpose, plus a very special guest from Green King. He joins us to discuss how learning and development and AI are transforming the hospitality and the pub industry.
Sora got released and is going to revolutionize the internet. Sora then is OpenAI / ChatGPT's video text to video creation model. And it's been out there in beta testing for about a year with artists and it sort of had a soft launch. And then just before Christmas, it was released. Honestly, I would love to get my hands on it because most of the video generating things that I've played with have been absolute garbage. And Sora's supposed to be really, really good. But it's not yet released in the UK and certain parts of Europe. So I'm desperate to get my hands on it. So if you are, if you're listening to this and you've had a play with it, please get in touch and let us know how it's going. So
why do they leave us behind? Why don't we get it?
It's regulatory, isn't it?
Oh, from what I've seen, it looks pretty slick.
It does look amazing. But I bet when you get in there, well, firstly, you need a pro license, right? So you've got to be paying that $200 a month thing. And you're probably going to be allowed like 10 minutes of video creation a month. So the processing power is probably going to limit. You're not going to be creating loads and loads of crazy videos. And honestly, Lucy, I thought to myself, really want to get in and have a play. But what would we actually do with a video creator? Like, how would we actually benefit in our business?
But it's about learning the tools to share ideas and how other organisations could use them. And I think they're missing a trick because they should open it up for people to have a play, like you said, because without having a play, you're less likely to want to spend that amount of money straight away, unless obviously you're in the video creation game. I don't know.
It's an interesting one. I think it's going to revolutionise. I think it's just going to change everything. Like it's going to massively accelerate the sort of whatever we get to, like a trust mark on videos or whatever the thing is that people need to demonstrate that it's either a real or fake video. I think Sora is going to be the thing that accelerates it. So watch this space. And
There's
then
so much that's coming out at the moment. And you know what? Seriously, it was something that entered my head over the weekend. And I don't know if I'm the only person that has ever thought this. Like, aren't people bloody clever? These are machines. This is technology, but it's humans who have created the absolute genius behind this. And I just had a moment of, I hope somebody feels incredibly proud because look at what they're providing and helping and supporting and what they're giving us such joy. So whoever, well done.
Well done, pat on the back. They're probably using AI to code things now and get even cleverer and cleverer. But that's another podcast. Maybe we should change the frequency because this is a fortnightly podcast. Maybe we should change it to like every 10 minutes because we are filtering out so much material, just to keep this focus. Another piece of breaking news or emerging news is the Google agent space. So Google, I've worked in businesses where we've had Microsoft stuff and more. And I worked in one business, Jaguar Land Rover, where we had Google Docs and, Google email and all that sort of thing. Google have brought out Google agent space and that's your sort of co-pilot competitor. And I don't see this I see this as a game changer if you already use Google. I can't see many organizations going, we're going to switch to Google from Microsoft. No. So I think it's really just a boon. It's just a parallel system. It's going to be probably really good and have lots of party tricks, but not really a massive seismic change for the industry, I don't think.
No, I don't think so either. And it's just another kind of knee-jerk reaction to having to do something because otherwise they potentially could lose because I think people would go Google to Microsoft.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's your breaking news. Let's get into our conversations in the field. Conversations in the field.
I love it when I'm in a field. As you all know, I love being in a field, which basically means just love talking to clients.
So when you say that, I'm either thinking there's an innuendo I'm not getting or I'm thinking of a scarecrow. I can't quite decide which it is.
It's not the scarecrow.
Right.
So one of the conversations that came up this week, again, it's one of those real kind of points that just massively resonates with me. I was speaking to a client about the powers of generative AI. And as we know, we've got specific use cases or buckets, as we call them. We still need to find a different word. Great for content creation and communication, great for data analysis, great for learning, etc., research. And it was the data analysis piece where this came up, because I said, and you're looking through all of the numbers and trying to compare and contrast and come out with thematical data insights. He said, I actually love doing that.
Yeah, so do I.
I mean, I don't, but it made me think he's right. Again, people have different elements of joy in their work, and it's really important, again, that we don't push all of this in terms of the productivity and efficiency, so that it actually takes people's joy and purpose out of their daily job. And it's really important that teams consider what it is that their individual purposes are, as not to just discard that.
Yeah, well, it's about the joy of discovery, isn't it? Like, you can get Copilot or Claude or ChatGPT to blast through the data analysis, but you're missing out on the bit where your curiosity is applied, or where you get the little buzz from noticing a theme in the data. And you can never really. So we often apply it to human data. Let's say there's a piece of data, you're doing an audit on an organisation. There's a piece of data about a leader that will have so much more power that the tools might not pick up, because the leader has much more impact on the organisation. So you've got to do a dip sample, and the joy of work is important. Like, you've got to remember what you like about doing things.
Yes. I spoke with, I think they were from a law firm, having to write a lot of documents and briefing documents, and actually said that part of it was something that they really enjoyed. Again, it's about where generative AI fits and supports and meets you with where you need it to. It's not necessarily a one kind of size fits all element. And I think it's important that organisations then take that into consideration when they're creating their narrative for what AI's purpose is, because it will be different for individuals.
And my wife is my Everest, right? She writes a particular technical report for the courts about families. She's a psychologist. And I said to her, that'd be so much quicker if you used AI. And she's like, the pace that I write at is the same pace that I think at, so I'm not actually going to save any time. I'm like, all right, okay, I get it. So we've got to respect people's psychological processes, right? We've got to respect that. My conversations in the field, it's what I'm noticing about the demands that are being placed on us, Lucy, as AI uptake extraordinaires. And what we're noticing, or what I think I'm noticing, and you can validate, is we're getting more and more requests from larger businesses who are saying, could you come and talk to our leadership population? That seems to be very there's a sort of twigging or a realization, often from senior HR folks. I think we need to be on the same page in terms of, the potential for AI. Don't know, am I imagining it?
No, I had a think about this, and I don't know if pause is the right word, but I kind of feel that whilst there might be other technological advancements and AI, machine learning going on in the background, which of course we know is led by IT, I think it feels like organisations are now thinking we need to start or stop, pause, and just align, and actually let's then tee everything up in the right order. Yeah,
that makes perfect sense. And with a smaller organisation, which we'll get to in a second, it's quite easier just to upskill everyone and crack on, because you're looking each other in the eye, right? But with a bigger organisation, you need a game plan.
They obviously feel that and I'm sure there'll be lots of different things going on in different pockets of the organisation, but it feels like there's now general consensus that there needs to be a plan of action, a strategy, and that has to start at the top.
It does, and it's a relief for us. I'm not just talking about us, because I love talking about us. It's more about what it means to you. So, like, if we have a sales call or a prospecting call with somebody who's saying, "Can you help us?" and the person on the call is AI literate, the first thing they know is how to talk to us, and the second thing they know, what I'm noticing, is they've got all the bits and bobs of an AI strategy. They just need a bit of support to help. So, I guess, dear listener, the clue is there. You get AI literate yourself before you start thinking about how you're going to do the rest of the organisation.
Yeah. Though it's different for a slightly smaller organisation because they can combine the two. AI literacy, kind of as a group, you know, that you effectively look each other in the eye on a daily basis, or on a Teams meeting if you're not actually in person, but you can almost kind of move straight to AI literacy, which then in turn helps to kind of shape and direct your stance, your strategy when you understand more.
Yeah, that's right. And so when we talk about culture with a big organisation, we talk about, you know, your values and does your leadership team embody it? And it's quite a big endeavour to get the culture right in a big organisation, and that's what you need, isn't it? An AI-ready culture. But in a smaller team, the culture's just there. The culture is whatever that, you know. It doesn't need that kind of so much deliberate effort. And so that, I guess that's why we're seeing the difference. Like smaller companies are saying, help us with literacy. Bigger organisations like help us get our leadership team aligned.
Yeah. And that's an exciting project to work on, the plan from start to finish and the transformation once you have got the stance, the communication, the responsible use, which encourages. You have got ambassadors or champions within the organisation which are evangelising the reason to maintain joy of work, to support innovation, and the literacy to actually achieve it.
Yeah, with a cohesive plan, doable. It's totally doable.
So we should move on to some adventures in AI.
No, yeah, before we get into that, I've noticed that Rich, our banana man, has been very quiet in this podcast. So he's our guy, our producer, and he will shout bananas if we're too technical. And I think this is the risky zone.
We
just making
obviously,
sure, Rich, you are banana ready.
We need to be more technical.
I'm ready.
Oh, don't, I'm hungry.
And so Lucy, at the weekend, I excitedly sent you a little WhatsApp message going, oh my goodness, ChatGPT Vision. I've been mucking about with it. And I sort of tried to nudge you to have a go. Did you have a play with it?
I did have a play with it, and I'm very used to your little text messages and WhatsApps nudging me along with, this has just come out. Have you seen this? Oh my gosh. And I take on your excitement. And yes, I did have a little play with it. And so ChatGPT Vision, you need to go to the advanced voice mode when you talk into the model. And at the bottom, there's a little camera.
And it's really weird.
You press the camera and the camera comes up and looks at you. And so it can talk with you, to you, support you based on what you look like, what you're wearing. I mean, mine told me I had a beautiful pink dress on. I said, thank you very much. What do you think of my jewellery? And they said, it looks like you're going to a party. And I was wearing a necklace earlier. And I said, but I'm about to go and run a podcast. It's a business-related event. And they actually said, you might like to rethink that. Tone it down.
Actually, with your, 21 plus fat years of experience of being a human being, you actually took the advice of a robot about what to wear.
Well, because I obviously wasn't sure, and I thought, I've got too much going on, dingle dangle, jangle rather. So I took the necklace off. But yeah, my mind goes to, what are the use cases for this? It's perhaps not quite there yet, because when I went like this, it said it looks like you're happy.
Okay,
so it got a few things wrong.
If you're listening on audio, it looks like you're sort of trying to blow up a balloon, like.
No, I was trying to frown.
Right. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. I had to go with that, and it got anger and sadness and confusion, which is pretty much sounds like my typical Sunday.
Had you actually changed your face?
The other thing was I thought, oh, this is good if you're partially sighted, right? This would really help. So I pointed at a bottle, and it read the label really well. So I was really impressed at that, and I'm like, okay, let's try moving around the kitchen. And within seconds, it had me smashing into the dishwasher. So it's not quite there. It was like, keep moving forward. And I didn't actually have my eyes shut, but I was like trusting it, imagining I was trusting it to help me navigate around the kitchen. And it just basically walked me straight into an open dishwasher, and I could well have stabbed myself on a fork. So,
but isn't that obvious? Because it can't correlate distance. So we can see that you've got a dishwasher coming up. So be mindful of that rather than know how far away you are from it.
Yeah, so there's a little disclaimer on there that says, do not use this to do stupid things or make stupid decisions. And I guess, very quickly I managed to do that. So I was quite pleased with myself.
Fair enough. So that's ChatGPT Vision. Here we go. Bananas.
I was just wondering if Apple Vision is video as well, or only photo at the moment, and if there's a daily limit.
So it's ChatGPT Vision, and it is live real-time video. So I don't know if it's taking snapshots on a regular basis and then analysing the pictures, because we've known it can do that for ages, or whether it's analysing live real-time video. I don't know. But it's on ChatGPT, it's on your phone, and it is so much fun.
So much fun. Well, talking of fun and also just adventures in AI, of course, I used the lovely ChatGPT to help me with some gift ideas the other day, because I've got some family birthdays coming up, and actually it was genius. So just directly into the voice function again, I explained some elements that they like: classic cars, anything to do with the war, old planes, step so and so. Yes, this is my
Bond.
this is my dad. Yeah, said his age and looking for gift items up to about £50. Put the web search function on. Said, could you give me a list of 10 ideas, please? And once you have prepared the list, I want you to go back and read the list and evaluate them to give me your top 5. It was brilliant.
That's amazing. That's really good. And did it do any web search, or was it just purely sort of based on its own thing?
It did web search. Most of the things that came up were the likes of Etsy and Amazon.
Gotcha. So I know, we talk about largely uptake in business, but I think, our favourite catchphrase is discard the detail, keep the inspiration. So like you basically used it as a sort of semi-brainstorming and research device then.
Absolutely. But, people that are perhaps planning the next office party or dinner, restaurant, all those kind of things, brainstorming a list of things for me to look at. It just fast-tracked that kind of whole search element for me, and then I had things to go and just double check already. Again, it was an assistant.
Trust but verify. Other things that I've been mucking about with or having a play with this week were ChatGPT projects. So one of the biggest sort of complaints that I've always had about ChatGPT is you have a brilliant chat and you generate a document or you come up with some really amazing content, and then a week later you try and find it and you go, what was the word in there that I used? And you've really struggled to find it. For projects
you
now,
mean it's too far down the left?
Yeah, it's really hard to find your old stuff in ChatGPT. But the projects means you can sort of create a project, and I think they've nicked the idea from Claude, because you've got Claude projects as well. Yes. Claude is a competitor to ChatGPT, Rich, before you wave your bananas around, which is a bit like Anthropics. So you can sort of organise in a little folder and you can teach it stuff and put documents in there. So it's like halfway between a bot and a chat. And I already like it. Having said that, in a normal chat, you can just bring your bots in. I created a bot that's like that analyzes written content and coaches you on it. I couldn't bring that into a piece of written content, so we'll keep playing with it. We'll let you know how we get on with it, but it's a really interesting product.
Do we have anything for Copilot?
A moment's silence for Copilot as they contemplate building the capability.
But we are going to continue with falling in love.
Because we love. Yeah, because lots of customers are saying to us, can you help us with Copilot? So we're on it. We're learning to love it, right? We're learning to love it. The other interesting thing that I've been playing with recently, and this is the first one I found, is a live real-time avatar that you can actually talk to, which is like being on a Zoom call with a human being, as my kids used to say.
Human being.
Not perfect, but really interesting. And it speaks to the pace that you were talking about at the top of the show, Lucy, which is just blistering. Like you go, I wish there was this. And then a week later it's there. Let me play you a clip of HeyGen. It's HeyGen. You can chuck it in a browser, go and play with it yourself. But let me play you a clip of me talking to a real live avatar. And I said to it, can you help me practice a difficult conversation, which is somebody took my lunch? And that's the clip I'm about to play. If you're not looking on video, it's an American sounding person sitting on a picnic bench. That's the only sort of context. So it's a bit weird, but it goes a bit like this.
Hey, Andrew. Oh, wow, that's not cool at all. I guess this is kind of awkward, but I really didn't mean to take your lunch. Can you tell me, when it's been happening? I want to make sure it stops, for sure.
Well, I think it's a bit unfair to ask me when it's been happening, because I'm challenging you because you're the one who's been doing it. So
yeah, you're right. That does sound unfair. I guess I just wanted to understand better. I really don't want to be that person. Can we figure out a solution together? Maybe I could pay you back or something.
Well, I'm not interested in being paid back, but when we say figure out a solution, surely you know whether you're eating someone else's lunch or not.
Yeah, you're right. I should know better. and I'm really sorry for that. I guess I didn't think about how it would affect you. So, what do you think would be a good way to make sure this doesn't happen again? I want to make it right.
I think perhaps the answer needs to come from you.
Okay, I get that. So, I'll definitely start labeling my lunch, and I'll be more mindful. Also, how about I check in with you if I'm unsure about something in the fridge? Does that sound good?
It sounds good, but honestly, how difficult is it not to take someone else? You know whether you've made lunch or not, right? Come on. I think you're dodging it a little bit. I need your commitment that you're not going to touch anyone's lunch.
Yeah, you're totally right. And I really appreciate you calling me out on this.
I think that's enough of that, Lucy, don't you? What do you think? What's your first take on it?
I want to work where she is. It looks lovely.
Well, you can sit in a picnic field and nick people's lunches. I think that the algorithm or the AI was probably programmed to resolve disputes, but that was really binary. You've eaten my lunch. And when I was mucking about, when I was playing with it, I found myself getting irritated in the same way that you would with a human being.
You will, of
You've
course.
taken my lunch. I want to make it right. Don't take my flipping lunch then, mate.
Somebody ate my lunch. Oof, would be trouble.
So I think quite a useful tool, right? And you can have a 10-minute practice conversation for free. Bear in mind you're probably training the model while you're doing it, but why not go in and have a little go on it?
Is it one-on-one, or can you bring in to have two people conversing with the avatar?
It's quite flexible, so you can actually upload the details of your website and then bring it into a Zoom call. So in theory, it could be like a salesperson on a Zoom call, but really clunky and weird, and you wouldn't do that in front of real customers. But a lot of potential, and it's HeyGen, HeyGen.
So use cases?
Practicing, coaching, first level sort of sales avatar, an actual coach, could coach you on something. I'd say have a play with it and, see what you think. That's you, Lucy. That's you, Rich, swinging your bananas about. And that's you, dear listener.
Are we ready for our guest?
Always.
So it's time to introduce our next guest on this episode of the AI Readiness podcast. Very excited to have Peter Boswell with us. Peter is the Senior Leadership Excellence Manager at the very lovely pub and hospitality chain Green King. Hi there, Peter.
Good morning, Lucy. Good morning, Andrew.
Hey, Peter. So if I'm listening outside of the UK, what does Green King mean? It's a national treasure for us.
Yeah, that's right. You'll find a Green King pub pretty much on every corner of every UK street. That's a bit of an over-exaggeration, but huge hospitality company. We've got pubs right across the country with lots of different brands. And in fact, if you have been on a high street in the UK, you've almost definitely passed one or been in one. So my role, as Lucy said, does look after the senior leadership development within the business.
Amazing. So before we dive straight in, Peter, and get ourselves a pint of AI, I'd like to know... I would love to know where you are on your personal journey and experience with AI. Are you a novice or are you a ninja?
That's a really dangerous question. I'm an enthusiastic learner, I would say. So I'm a bit of a self-confessed geek, as I've used the phrase to you before, Lucy and Andrew. So really, I love to play. I love my technology, and I really enjoy the principle of AI. And some of the stuff that's coming out is fascinating, but I wouldn't say I'm fully a pro. I'm a bit of a fiddler, and I like to try and break it.
Well, I happen to know that you've built an agent in Microsoft Copilot, so you are in ninja territory.
Okay, right. We'll have to delve a bit more into that, that's for sure.
All right.
So I've got first question for you, Peter, and I'm really hoping that lots of other L&D consultants and people that are working within the HR and people function like you can learn from your experience. If you could combine all of the possibilities I guess, in your world of learning with the potential of AI, what does kind of utopia or the best case scenario for learning look like?
I'll be honest with you today. I have dreams about this, right? So I've worked in the learning space for sort of 20 odd years, and there are loads of systems out there that host lots of stuff, right? And a lot of hospitality retail businesses, we then put loads of stuff onto these systems. And what's really overwhelming for the user is trying to find the right stuff at the right time. And invariably what happens is you log in and then you get so overwhelmed, you just don't bother in the first place. And then you've got systems that they've got some AI baked in, but it's kind of an afterthought. And I always have this lovely dream of, what if the system knows you so well that it sort of follows you around while respecting privacy laws. And so when you log in, it knows, first of all, what you're after, what your line manager and what your business wants you to have. And a system can then serve up the right thing out of this massive array of information. But actually, this isn't just about being a system, right? I think in today's world, everything's about bespokeness. So if you go into a Subway, you get your personalized sandwich. Even McDonald's allow you to sort of personalize your stuff now. But what if we had systems within AI that followed you around? So I might start some learning online. I might even start some learning with an interactive piece with someone like me. But what if I get in my car and whichever system is used then spots that you're in a car and allows you to pick up where you've left off using a different medium? And so it doesn't have to be online or face-to-face or just via audio. It follows you around and it knows you. So there's really bespoke learning. And I think there's lots of integrations that are then possible, right? So if you think about reward and recognition, a lot of companies will say, well, do this thing and you can win an iPad. Well, that might not motivate everyone. But if you had AI that served up a points-based system that you said, I want to save for, well, it could be a phone or a Ferrari. Obviously, the amount of points would be different. It constantly serves you up with this reason for learning. Now, while we would hope that learning is enough for someone to want to do it because it's their own personal progression, what if there's more, particularly when you think about our generational learners of Gen Zs and Gen Alphas that will be joining the workforce in the next few years? Personalization and bespokeness is key. So this is the stuff I dream about, is a truly brilliant AI ecosystem that isn't a bolt-on. It's baked in from the start.
It's hard not for it to be a nag. I can imagine like a really integrated one. You write an email that says, hey, I know what your development plan is. Your line manager would think this email sucks. Want me to rewrite it for you? So you kind of, there's a sort of line of nagging and positivity, I guess.
It definitely should be an evolution from, I had slight nightmares of the little paperclip from Microsoft. You remember from years ago, something much, much better than that. But yeah, it knows how you're thinking, and it's your little personal assistant sitting on your shoulder, really.
Love that. So my sense is that the answer there was very much based on skill development in general. Well, what's your thinking about, because you're an AI literate guy, what's your thinking about how would you develop AI literacy across a whole organization? And did you actually see the benefit of doing that?
Yeah, I'm at Green King, I'm currently in an AI trial group. And so we're trying Copilot and we're having a bit of a play. In fact, we've used Uptake AI as a consultancy for a short piece. But what's really clear is when you turn on something like Copilot as AI, some people just don't know what to do with it. You're given this brilliant tool and you go, well, where do I start? And a bit like I just said with having too much information in a learning system, some people will just turn off and go, well, I don't know what to do, so I won't do anything. And therefore, a simple level of guidance, of learning, of training is absolutely needed to get people's juices flowing. So, for example, if somebody joins going, well, I just don't even know what I'd ask it from a finance perspective, let's give them some things to try and give it a go. And once you get those creative juices flowing, humans naturally are then curious and they have a fiddle. So I think that's the secret. And as AI matures and as businesses mature in terms of their AI literacy and programs, I think there's more and more layers to add to make sure people have a deeper and better understanding. I think in today's world, it's sometimes seen as a bit of a cheat. Oh, did you use ChatGPT to rewrite that for you? Well, that's a cheat, rather than, well, that's a genius. You asked help from a potential expert. And I think there's a long way to go to get there.
Interesting, isn't it?
You're talking about, oh, sorry, Lucy.
Interesting, isn't it? Because it's not necessarily always about the kind of technical skills that are needed. You mentioned some elements there around guilt. There's mindset, there's culture that kind of comes into play for AI adoption and supporting that across the organisation. What kind of role do you think leaders need to play in driving an AI-ready culture across an organisation?
It's a really good one. I think as with everything that's revolutionary in business, it's really important that first of all, the leaders are on board with the principle of all the big topics that we launch. And they 100% need to be exploring AI today and the role it plays in their area of expertise. I think it's really easy to fall into a trap of waiting for something to evolve, such as AI, but there is definitely a role for leaders to play in exploring what we'd call the art of possible. And we should be really clear that that doesn't mean everyone has to go out and fully launch a whole AI strategy, but just seeking to understand, I think, is a wise move at this stage of AI's maturity. And I think if you go to a group of leaders at whatever level and start telling them what they should do, that's a great way to switch them off. But teasing and helping people understand is a great way to get them to buy in and come to you as professionals for more.
That makes sense.
Something to light the fire we've talked about in the past, something that's going to ignite the desire and the interest, and somewhere to start, as you said. He likes to be told what they need to do, what they should do.
Lucy, you're absolutely right. And it's, light the fire is the thing, right? All leaders are in a position because they know what they're doing most of the time. But sometimes there's things they don't know. And something like this, you need the fire, you need the kernel of truth to get you thinking. And that's a job of a leader, is to think how you can use this thing better in your role to make it great. So I really like that idea.
So we hinted this before, right? So I know you've built an agent in Microsoft Copilot, which makes you better than me, right? Which is, I'm all right with saying that. That's fine. What kind of vantage point, what sort of strategic vantage point does it give you if you're AI literate yourself, Peter? So as an L&D leader yourself, how does it actually benefit you to be hands-on with the tools when you're thinking about the rest of the business?
Yeah, well, you're absolutely making me sound much more literate than what I am, Andrew. I'm more of a curious geek, like I say. And when you call it a kind of an AI agent, it's pretty idiot-proof, the system I've used. So within Copilot, you can create a chatbot, and effectively behind the scenes, you can create a whole load of commands. So if somebody said hello or good morning, or if something as simple as that, it will come back with a certain set of results or questions. And just through a little bit of fiddling, I found I could create this. And how I've used it was a bit like I said before. I look after, from a leadership perspective, some of our senior leaders. And what we get in a business like ours is just information piled on from everywhere. And half of the problem is knowing where to find it. And so the principle I had was, well, if I had one place where everything to do with leadership was sat, then the user could go onto it and go, this is a thing about leadership for feedback, for development, for learning, for podcasts. I just type in the question and it takes me to the right place. And that's what I did. So a great example for this is we launched a fairly innovative new 360 feedback tool, which wasn't just one 360. There was 3 or 4 different types. And when the user types in 360 or my feedback, as we've called it, this triggers the chatbot to ask a bunch of questions to help them understand which 360 would be best for them to use. And it really is as simple as that. It's worked really well, and we get to see behind the scenes the questions people ask, when it's worked and when it's failed. And we can infinitely build on it and add more and more information. So I'm really not as clever as what you've made me sound, Andrew. And I think this is one of the issues. If somebody says, building a chatbot is out of my realm of possibility, I think within 5 or 10 minutes, I could show them it. And I'm not an AI expert by any means.
So you've applied it already to giving your stakeholders a different experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of them have hugely got involved. And as we see with everything, some people haven't, because it maybe is still a step too far, but it is really simple. It also saves a few emails to me as well from people asking questions. So that's got to be a good thing.
Always.
I love that, because we always say have an AI first mindset. And so you've been tinkering, as you said, learned and come across a few new functions and elements that you can build on in order to come up with your own innovative way of using Copilot that meets a specific kind of business challenge, which is pretty genius. So I'm interested in what your kind of go-to tools or tricks would be within the whole realm of generative AI that we've got access to, but ones that would be most kind of applicable to your role.
Yeah, I've got one go-to trick, and I think it was when Andrew and I were together that he maybe gave me it. So look, he's bigged me up a bit, so this might be a bit of returning of the favour. But it's the whole coaching from ChatGPT via voice. So I absolutely love saying to something like ChatGPT, you are a director of a hospitality company. You're about to interview me for a role of business development manager for 200. But you give it all the information. Ask me the interview or go through the interview and it starts. But also questions or things that I like to say to it if I'm jumping in a car is talk to me for 25 minutes on the topic of time management in the style of a podcast, and it will then just talk at you for 25 minutes or 7 minutes or however long. And I find that particularly helpful because A, I spend a lot of time in the car, and B, when I go into a meeting, it can help me look good because it'll come out with a few great phrases, sayings, or latest trends, which really helps. So that's really useful. I have to be careful because we don't use ChatGPT in our business. Copilot is our go-to, so I don't give it any work information, but I use it as a coach on certain topics, which is absolutely phenomenal, and that's a real key for me.
And plus, you could also guide it, I guess, in terms if there were particular authors that you were interested in. So speak to me about time management. I really like author XYZ, or giving feedback. Can you refer to Kim Scott's work, Radical Candor? And then I'm sure it would bring in various different elements that are available on the web to support that. So again, another way to support learning. Let's consider a group of leaders that may have been in a workshop with you. What a great suggestion if they could use that on the voice function through Copilot to help continue their learning and really cement some of those things in an easy and digestible way, as you said, in the car.
Lucy, that again, love that idea. I haven't tried it with a particular author, so what sprung to mind there was someone like Stephen Covey, who wrote, I've got it behind me, an incredibly thick book on the 7 Habits. But actually, you can get to those 7 Habits quite quickly, and you could probably ask something like ChatGPT to give you that. Of course, there are still some limitations, right? So I saw online the other day, and I tried just this morning, if I ask ChatGPT how many R's there are in strawberry, it still thinks there's 2. And so you have to be careful in actually what you take as fact, particularly if I'm going into some senior meetings, right? Because if I said that strawberry had 2 R's, I'd probably lose some credit.
I'm a consultant. You're an L&D professional. Sometimes it's not just about learning something, but it's about immersing yourself in the topic to sort of tune in, and prepare. I agree. You've got to sort of treat it with a bit of caution because it does make mistakes. But there are lots of different reasons why we would do that 25-minute. And you've inspired me to have a go at that later on and see if I can get different voices. Like I want you to do a podcast with 3 people in it. One of you's a Cockney, one of you's a pirate, one of you's, I don't know, an Australian beachcomber. And I want you to represent those 3 voices. So that is today's experiment. Thank you, Peter.
You seem to like to learn from the pirate. There must be something in your childhood.
It's a thing.
It also sounds like the start of a bad joke as well. It was a Cockney and a pirate walk into a bar.
That's right. And then they all got sued. So any other kind of interesting experiments that we're learning from? So you talked about the bot that gives people a different experience. Or any other kind of upskill things where you think it can be applied, or you're thinking about applying it for other people?
Yeah, I think there are. Specific examples I don't have. I'm still in the stage of the art of possible. There are I guess I'd describe myself as a bit of a retrospective user in some cases. So I might do a task and then I will go, oh, actually, I wonder if Copilot could have helped or made me better. And inevitably, the answer is 50-50 at the moment. Sometimes yes and sometimes no. And I'd love to get to the point where I don't think about asking it afterwards, but I think about it beforehand, and therefore it does some of the work for me. I think what's really interesting and exciting is you can start creating personas. So within Copilot, and I know a number of the other engines as well, if we gave it more of a Green King voice, it would then tell us more on point, on brand, on strategic answers, which would be really helpful. But at the moment, I'm still a bit of a retrospective user. So yeah, I wonder if this could have helped.
Okay, watch this space.
I don't think there's anything wrong with being a retrospective user, because you're still having a go, you're still playing, you're still investigating what it can and can't do, and balancing that with the time back that you may get for next time if it has worked in that respect. And I guess that kind of also interestingly leads into how AI can help us to deliver upon kind of business objectives Do you have any kind of thoughts on that where we specifically align to support, I guess, in your case, your senior leaders?
I think there's a role that could be played in AI when you think about strategies, but more around the influencing of those strategies. So all of this in our roles when you're in corporate jobs we're influencers and we're storytellers. All of the best leaders are anyway. And sometimes crafting that perfect story can be really difficult. And I've been in rooms of people where I've got a brilliant idea and I've told the story wrong and it sounds awful. I would love to be in a place where AI can listen to me or guide me or give me some specific words, phrases, comments, whatever that help with that storytelling. And I would love to be in a place where it could watch and listen to me. And I know you probably tell me that it can to some extent, but to give me feedback on my facial expressions, on my tone of voice, on my body language, to go, you've got the right words, Peter, but the way you've said that or the way you looked wasn't quite there. And I'd love to see that because, on the other side of it, I do a lot of learning for people who perhaps aren't very good at presenting or persuading themselves. So we do a lot of that training ourselves. And a lot of them are just scared of going into a room in the first place. Well, what if they can't have someone like me every time? What if they had an AI tool that they could practice with and they got some open feedback? That would be fantastic and would help a lot of people.
Wow.
There might be potential in ChatGPT Vision because that got switched on recently, and I've been sort of playing with it.
Have you?
Yeah, and got it to sort of like try and say if I was looking angry or sad, and it can recognise some of the basic emotions. So that's definitely an interesting experiment.
Yeah, I'd love to have a fiddle with that one. That's the next one, Andrew.
Mm.
I just had an experiment with ChatGPT Vision earlier and I was wearing a necklace earlier and I asked what it thought about my appearance for a podcast. And first of all said, it's absolutely lovely jewelry, looks like you're about to go out. I said, well, it's actually for a business context and a podcast. And it came back and said, you might want to tone it down a bit.
Lose the necklace.
So I took the necklace off.
You actually took advice from AI. Love that.
You should put it on and get some human feedback and then see which we think is right for the podcast today.
We'd be really polite and go, you look lovely. You look so
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Okay, last question from me. So I'm sure you must have an eye on the market of learning service providers and consultancies and that sort of thing. What are you noticing about AI-powered offerings and the authenticity and veracity of those?
Are they all coming at you?
Yeah, yes. I'm sort of smiling because, I do get inundated with dozens of emails every day from individuals and businesses who want to sell their wares around AI. They somehow find my number, email, and they send repeated content. But here's the thing, right? Not a single one of these innovative companies using AI, generative AI, stuff that's baked in. None of them have used innovation to try and get in touch or to get my attention. It's all the same format of email, and it doesn't cut through. And there's a point where I don't get to read all of the emails. They go into my spam or I mark them as spam and I don't read it. But I would love to see the innovation of how these businesses get your attention. Otherwise, I'm thinking, well, if you don't have a USP, why would I use you? But on a more serious level, I would say there are just lots and lots of providers out there that have some kind of bolt-on AI that are just that. They're just bolt-ons. And so my tip or my dream or my request to businesses are find some companies you can consult with. So let's say it's hospitality or retail, and find out what the market really needs. Work with these people to build a solution from the ground up that gives the solution to a real problem, and make sure your AI is baked in. So I would love to see a mind-blowing system that makes learning in hospitality or retail an absolute revolutionary approach with all of the things I said in the first question that you asked me. And I haven't seen this kind of innovation for a really long time. So it starts with the innovation of how they approach people like me, but also how they build those technologies as well. And I think there's a massive space in the market for a mind-blowing, all-encompassing, cool thing, right?
There you go. If any providers or developers out there, you've got a call for action, and I think it should definitely be called PINT.
Yeah, definitely.
What would the acronym be, I wonder?
So what we like to do is we do a bit in terms of our approach, Peter. Like you can give us a bit of feedback on it. We like to do a bit of discovery on an organisation, and then the approach we can sometimes include a recording of Snoop Dogg actually saying, "Hey, for shizzle, we need to work with you." You know, it's like, so it get to play a little audio clip. And we sort of wondered whether we were being daft or whether it was going to stand out. Maybe it's both.
Maybe.
He's speechless. He's Lucy.
Yeah, there's a
I'm
pause.
I'm really visual. So when someone's talking to me, I'm invariably painting a picture, probably a bit like your ChatGPT listening. And the picture in my head is slightly mind blowing there, Andrew. So yeah.
All right, I'm on it.
We'll continue with finding our new and fun and perhaps sometimes wrong ways of communicating.
So, last question, desert island tool. Like if you were marooned on a desert island, you were only allowed one AI tool that would sort of magically work. Let's not worry about electricity or the interweb. What would it be?
One AI tool if I was on a desert island, let's not worry about the internet. Okay. Blimey. If I was on a desert island, first of all, for context, I'd be really happy in my own space. So I spend all of my time with people in my role. So I love when I get home at the end of the day to close the door and not be with people. So a desert island, I'd be in my happy place. But I imagine there's a point where I would need some kind of companionship or interaction. So perhaps a tool that could give me some guidance on, I'm no Bear Grylls. So how do I get a fire going? How do I get some clean drinking water? And that's probably a bit of a mesh of all the current tools that are out there. If it was delivered by way of an iPhone, which I know we're all connected to, and I have been fiddling with Apple Intelligence as that came out in the UK last week. So something that allowed me to have a conversation, give me some skills, but also still be switched off from the world. That would probably be my answer to that one. Put on the spot, Andrew.
Alrighty. Thank you very much.
Well, I think we have certainly taken a huge amount away from chat, Peter, and I very much hope our listeners have as well. If you're in L&D, you absolutely need to get involved with and be using AI to support your people in different and innovative ways, bespoke ways for learning.
And kudos for getting hands-on with it, because that's the way to think strategically, right?
What you will find in hospitality and retail, we are kinesthetic learners. We learn by touching it, doing it, trying to break it. And so best way to learn, in my opinion. So definitely, if people haven't given it a go yet, pick a tool, give it a go and see what happens.
Amazing.
Peter Boswell, thanks for being a friend of the show.
Thank you so
soon.
much. Lovely to talk.
How amazing was Peter?
He really knows how to speak fluently and floridly about AI. I like him.
Rolled off the tongue. I think he absolutely nailed that. I would be a lot more stuttery if I'd been posed with those questions right, like we had done to him.
Gear yourself up, Lucy. We have a letter.
Dear Lucy, help me fix my techie heart. My life is off, I need a brand new start.
Love the fact we've got lots of emails coming in, and so we are sort of hand-picking them to sort of stay in tune with the zeitgeist. The email address is lucy@uptakeai.co.uk if you've got an email of your own. Dear Lucy, I manage a team of 7 in a medium-sized business, and we've started introducing AI like Microsoft Copilot. While most of the team is open to it, 2 people outright refuse to use it. They keep procrastinating or finding excuses, saying it's too complicated or not needed. How do I help them overcome this resistance without making it a battle? Asking for a friend, of course. Emma, real name supplied.
We hear this time and time again, really, don't we? And first of all, dear Emma, there is nothing wrong with the team. I think that's completely normal, natural and human for people to have different reactions and be at different stages. And I think a team of 7 or so people is a nice, manageable team to have a conversation. I think it has to start with communication, as most things in life do. Get around a table and thrash it out. Like, how do we feel about this? I like it because, and allow that openness and honesty and transparency for people to say why they are not, in the procrastination.
You can't just kind of go, right then, we're not using it, why? It's more of a sort of compassionate kind of lead with curiosity.
Exactly, and to then hear the reasons, which might be completely different to what expected, you don't know, but then for the group to hopefully collectively be able to kind of, in that peer-to-peer social learning way, kind of talk through that to support each other with what the team or organisation stance is and the reason for embracing it, which might be different for each person in that respect. So I think we need to understand their reasons. We can't just assume. We need to talk about it. We need to align as a team. And I think that's an easier job with a small size business, and probably a bit of show and tell as well.
Yeah, I would agree. Well, good point about the organisation stance. And so that's what I'm curious about. In a medium-sized business, like, what are the bosses saying about it? If they're just cranking on about increased productivity, then that's just not really a very compelling message for me if I don't know what AI is.
Or the fear of, actually, if it's going to do all this data analysis and it doesn't need me, they won't need me. So is the fear of jobs. We see this time and time again, and it is real concerns and feelings and thoughts that need to be considered. And you nailed it by saying the word is compassion.
So I want to just take my hat. If I was wearing a hat, I would take it off, because you did some next level agony aunting there. Not only did you answer the question, but also you did the "you're not alone" bit at the beginning, which I thought was really nice.
I've been there.
We've all been there. But Lucy, as the agony aunt, has definitely been there.
I don't know why I just nodded at the microphone, because anybody who is just listening would not have known.
Well, next time you do it, just let me know and I'll describe it.
Okay.
Little intimate nod close to the mic. Quick fire questions to round off the show.
Yay!
What's the leadership book that inspired you the most?
First ever book, I think is my first ever book. 1997 I read was Richard Branson's Losing My Virginity. Massively inspired me to think about what innovations I could do and make some money, which did actually lead to me building something, but then failing. Anyway, that book. But the one that comes back time and time again is an old one. It's classic. It's Patrick. It's Lencioni. It's 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. The reason being, and this is a key point to share. First pillar we all know is trust. You have to have trust to be able to and psychological safety to speak frankly and openly at a top table or just amongst your team to say, I don't understand something, I don't quite agree. And the whole point of that is so you can have those open conversations, and it might lead to conflict, which is the second one. And the reason being, I used to have some massive arguments with a boss I used to have. And it really, really used to kind of upset me and get to me quite a lot. And I realise now, looking back and with my understanding of the 5 dysfunctions, that was the healthy conflict that should have been there. But it's just the way he was perhaps hairdryer yelling at me. And some of the words he used perhaps didn't make it healthy. But it was based on my style of learning, which is asking questions. And he obviously saw it as being difficult, and I was asking questions because if I don't understand something, I can't commit to it. I can't say, yeah, let's do that, because I'm not a yes person. And so that was just, even though I couldn't go back and do anything about that previous life, I realised why it was happening, and he didn't understand why I was questioning.
So as a business psychologist, there's a challenge in that, because he was basically being not very nice and you were reframing it and learning how to deal with it. So you were up managing. For the record, mine is Black Swan, right, which is a book that helps you to interpret and read business books, right? So it's like the book to read before all the other business books, because it says that 90% of them are trash. It's built around a great story. But that's my cynical psychologist coming up again. If you had an AI personal trainer, what would it nag you about the most?
Well, mine's easy. It would quite straightforward be my arse.
Right. The pronunciation.
It would nag me about that. And interestingly, I did ask ChatGPT Vision earlier as I was coming down the stairs, and I wanted to see if it could kind of pick up what I was doing and how I was moving. And then I said, what am I doing now? And it said, you're shaking your ass.
Really? No, it did not.
It didn't say ass. It said, look like you're dancing.
But, so, right, this time next year, look out for buns of steel. And
buns of steel. Rich
to be a sort of muscly, sinewy, like wearing a vest to show it all off. Marvellous. Thank you for tolerating my questions. So that's brought us to the end of our podcast. In the next one, it's all about trust. It's all about accountability.
You've got to have trust. You've got to have accountability. And as I've just said, you've got to have those healthy conflict conversations in order to commit to the plan and then be accountable for it. So I'm going to bring Patrick back into the world.
We're going to do a bit of a deep dive, right? So I'm really obsessed with this idea of the difference between responsible AI use and accountable AI use. They are different things. And accountable speaks to how we explain it to people.
And I'm really excited in that respect because we have a people and culture director to talk about responsible use and how they have embedded that across their organisation. So there's a nice link there.
Amazing. So we've got a little, like a bit of a theme going on in our podcast where we try and take the last word of saying goodbye. And I know at the end of this recording, and you're already late, you've got a client meeting, and I haven't. So I'm just going to stick around and say bye. Bye.
No, that's not fair. Bye-bye, everyone. Thanks for listening. Bye.
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 Bye-bye.
Bye. Don't be late for the client meeting. Go. Bye.
Bye.
Welcome to the AI.